Hello. I could eat about 1.5 million of these.
Well, nobody's perfect.
Welcome to the It's a Drama podcast.
Daddy, I love him.
My mother thanks you.
If you can't say something nice.
All right, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up.
Hello and welcome to the It's a Drama podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Brian.
And today we're going to be talking about common misconceptions about New Zealand. New Zealand facts that just aren't true.
I was pretty blown away. Liz started reading some of these out to me and I went, no.
Yeah, I know.
They cannot be true.
Yeah. This is going
to... Not so much can't be true. People can't actually say this.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre with their things that, to be honest, things that people have said to us, and and just things that we've read about that people have, or people have told us that they've said to them. And anyway, we're going to put those to rest and tell you the truth about these misconceptions about New Zealand. Before we moved here, because we emigrated to New Zealand 11 years ago.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. What you're going to? I've got
Oh,
an
you
idea
see,
what
Brian,
you're going to
you
ask
see?
me about. But,
Yeah, go on. What was it? What did you think about New Zealand before you came here?
The trouble is, I grew up in Newquay and Cornwall, where there were a lot of Kiwis, and two of my cousins dated Kiwis. So you got to talk about them, but I still thought it was going to be back and beyond, and lots of tractors and lots of sheep. And I didn't really think there was that many cows here. I just thought it was more sheep. Backwards would have been back in the 1980s.
Yeah,
that's what I
backwards.
would have thought it would have been. Yeah.
I think my perception of New Zealand would have been, I didn't know anything about it for a start. Like I say, I also grew up in Newquay and Cornwall, and I knew more about Australia. I'd heard lots about Australia. I didn't know. I just thought New Zealand was just like this little country that was just somewhere in the middle of the sea that was just nothing really, just a bit boring and just a bit, like you say, lots of sheep and just nothing had come out of New Zealand. And, I didn't know about New Zealand that I could say, oh yeah, well that came out of New Zealand or...
Yeah, but I mean, people said, to say about New Zealand, and I never realised that it was in two parts. There was a North and South Island.
No, neither did I. I didn't
and you'd
know
think,
that either.
the South Island, that's going to be much warmer, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you go, really? It's like...
Yeah, but you would think that,
Well,
wouldn't
it's
you?
upside down, isn't it? It's everything. You go south, it gets cold, and you go north, and it gets warm, and that's completely different. If you're... The majority of people in the world, well, I say that, the majority of people live in the world in the Northern Hemisphere.
Do they? Sure
I'd
about
have to
that?
look that fact
You sure
up.
about that?
Well, China's in the Northern Hemisphere and India is mainly in the Northern Hemisphere.
Well, maybe just look that up, Brian, before you start spouting your facts on this podcast.
Yeah, there you go.
So if you are interested in New Zealand, you are going to love this podcast. So let's jump straight in and go through the common misconceptions that people think happen or are in New Zealand. So number one, New Zealand is boring.
Depends what you mean by boring, isn't it? Hey?
No, listen, we're not going to spend too long over each thing here.
No,
New
we're not.
Zealand is not boring. I'm sorry, it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, you can get parts of New Zealand that are a little bit slow, and you're thinking, well, what's happening here then? Is there anything going on? But that's the same anywhere in the world.
Of course it is.
But where else in the world are you going to be climbing mountains, bungee jumping, water rafting down bloody rivers and, looking at sheep and
Cows and fields. And...
New Zealand is not boring. No way. No way is New Zealand boring.
No, it's what your class is boring, isn't it? If you're talking about, wanting to go to the theatre every night, to a different theatre, and then yes, all right, you might struggle.
There's a theatre in New
You can,
Zealand.
but it's just the variety sometimes isn't quite there. There are only 4.5 million, 5 million people here. So yeah, it doesn't get a lot of the mainstream stuff, but what's your class is boring?
Do you know what, Brian? I'm going to stick up for New Zealand there because yes, you're right. We haven't got the West End and Broadway and all the rest of it. But do you know what? Oh God, I'm getting a little bit het up here. Look, I can't get my words out.
If you could see Liz now, she's got her hands in the air.
I am. I'm just like. The thing is, with the Kiwi artists and the performers, I think because they think, oh, we haven't got such a big stage to perform on, the smaller ones that you would normally think, oh, that's going to be rubbish, are brilliant.
Yeah,
that's what I'm going to say, is you go and you see some fringe theatre, like you go to the Comedy Club in Wellington, for instance, or just in Taranaki, we have what's called the Arts Festival, and all these, what's the word I'm looking for? Plays and shows come to the region.
Yep.
And it is some of the best theatre I've seen in the world.
Yep.
And these people are just performing in little tents and
marquees and
makeshift theatres.
Pop-up theatres.
Pop-up theatres, yeah. And it's just, it is the best. And that's what I love about New Zealanders, is I think they're made to believe that, oh yeah, well, you haven't got the West End, you're not good enough. And it's just like, it's almost like they're out to prove you wrong. And everything you see, even if it's just like a little show or whatever, it always blows you away. So there you go. I don't think New Zealand's boring.
So no. And yeah.
Number two.
I
love this one.
Right, which one?
Go on, I know what you're going to say.
New Zealand's connected to Australia. I just couldn't believe it when I heard that. So just to give you an idea, saying about New Zealand is connected to...
No, tell them about it. It's not just connected. What do they think it is?
Well, let me finish.
All right, sorry.
So New Zealand is connected to Australia via the Auckland Harbour Bridge. How brilliant is that?
I'd love that if that was true.
And then, so just to give you an idea, the Auckland Harbour Bridge up in Auckland, the North Island, there's a bridge apparently that goes all the way to Sydney. That's what people think. How
bliss would that be though, Bri? If it was like a big cycle track and you could just ride to Australia.
So just to give you an idea of concept of distance that New Zealand is away, it is 2,600 miles away. That is 600 miles wider than India at the widest point. And it's around about as wide as the USA. It's 200 miles shorter than the widest point in the USA.
From here to Australia?
From here to Australia. So it's just to give you an idea of how far we are away from...
Well done for doing your New Zealand
facts.
That?
I couldn't believe it.
Well done.
So, we're 3-hour time zones. Yeah. So it's like being in New York and going all the way to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it? Yeah. Washington, D.C.?
I don't know.
Or is it Washington State? Yeah, Washington, D.C. is a bit shorter, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just south
down
of there,
the road,
isn't it?
Yeah.
So Washington State, which is around, from, say, New York to Seattle.
Yeah.
That would be my geography trying to work on me now, because I'm just thinking, said the wrong thing about
DC.
DC.
New York is close to Seattle, isn't it?
No.
No? Oh,
no.
Okay.
San Francisco's... All right, New York to San Francisco. That's about it.
All right, okay. Yeah, and also I've heard people say that, before we move on, they've said, oh, is New Zealand the capital of Australia?
Brilliant. Well, it is, actually.
And also, another misconception as well is that the Kiwis hate Australians. They don't, do they?
No, there's a friendly banter. They're really, it's not, I'm just trying to think, who else can you put it to? The English and the Scottish when they're playing football. But then the Scottish do hate the English, really. So, yeah.
That's not very nice. My granddad was Scottish and he married an English woman.
I haven't got a problem with Scottish people,
he does say that.
Yeah, so, but I'm just saying that's it. It's, yeah. I mean, Scotland just qualified for the Euro 2020s being played next year, I think it is. The first time they qualified in...
Oh, Bri, we're not talking football.
20-odd years.
But any chance. Yeah. Any chance. How's Liverpool doing?
All right. A few injuries, but we're doing all right.
Number 3, a common misconception about New Zealand is it's always sunny. You're going to come to this sunny paradise.
Yep.
Sorry to disappoint you, but no.
Have you seen pictures in New Zealand? It's very green.
Yeah.
Very, very green.
Yeah.
So there are dry parts. Central Otago is very yellow, and even around Gisborne, where your sister lives, can get very dry at times.
Gisborne is hot, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it can get up to 40 degrees in the summer.
Yeah.
Centigrade. So double it another 30. That's 100 and just over 100 degrees.
Yeah.
That's pretty hot. Yeah, so it does get hot.
Yeah, so, but it does get hot, but it's not always sunny is what I'm saying.
No, it's not always sunny, no.
No, you can get like Taranaki, for instance, where we live, we get a shed load of rain, don't we?
Yeah, we've had a shed load this morning.
Today. Yeah. Absolutely poured down. So there are parts that you can come to where you're going to get more sunshine than others, like Bryce said, in Gisborne, Central Otago, on the east coast. You know,
it's mainly the east coast because you mainly have a ridge of mountains that tend to run down through parts of the North Island and the ridge right down through the South Island. So the east coast can be quite dry.
But it's not Australia. It's not. You're not going to be
nothing like Australia,
and we're not connected. Right, go on. Next one.
Yeah, apart from the part of Australia is Tasmania. So Tasmania and New Zealand are very similar in climate and conditions.
Are they?
Yes, they are. Yeah, it's very green in Tasmania.
I'd love to go to Tasmania.
Yeah, well, it's no different than here, to be honest. That's where you got the same sort of.
You haven't even been, so how do you know?
I've seen a lot of pictures.
Yeah, well, you can't say that. You know.
Yeah, well,
I've seen a lot of pictures of Russia, but I've never been. I don't know anything about it. Have I?
Yeah.
When?
We flew into Moscow Airport.
Oh yeah, but that doesn't count. But I mean, like walked in Russia in life. Anyway, go on then. Number 4.
This one I've never heard of, which I just couldn't believe. So New Zealanders eat kiwis. So a kiwi is a flightless bird in New Zealand. It's an endangered bird. It's a nocturnal bird, and apparently the misconception is that New Zealanders eat these birds because they're like chicken. They taste like chicken. So I couldn't believe that.
You really can't believe it?
No.
I can believe that because you would see a picture of the kiwi and you don't realise how big it is. It's nothing like the size of a chicken. They're bloody big, those things, aren't they?
Yeah, yes, no, they're not that.
No, they are. I've seen it, and it's big. Oh no, I'm thinking about the polystyrene one outside in the museum. It's not that big then.
No, it's not that. It's not an ostrich.
It's not like a mini dinosaur.
No, they're the moas that you're talking about.
Oh yeah, I'm getting confused.
Moa birds. Yes, they used to. Yeah. See, how do you live here?
I need to do some research. All right then. So how big compared to a chicken is a kiwi bird?
It's about the same size, maybe a bit smaller. They're not that big. But they've got long necks. They're not.
Yeah, they don't eat them. The other thing as well that's really confusing, and I find this really confusing actually, and I still get a little bit confused about this, is kiwi people. Oh yeah, they're a kiwi fruit, and kiwi bird.
All right, so the kiwi bird is that's where the kiwis get the name from. But then they had the fruit came. When was it? It came into the country in the 1930s.
They say kiwi fruit, don't they?
Yeah, it's not a native fruit to New Zealand. It's just not. So it was brought in from, I don't know, somewhere the Pacific Islands or wherever.
Yeah.
And that's what we grow. We grow fields and fields and fields, or orchards and orchards of kiwi fruit. And that's where the kiwi fruit has got its name from.
But if I said to you, Brian, if I said to you, "Oh, Brian, I've just been outside and there's a kiwi waiting to see you." Listen up, all you people who love New Zealand and dream of moving here or even are planning to move here. 11 years ago, when we decided to emigrate to New Zealand, we'd put our papers in and everything, and then honestly, I spent months just scouring whatever I could and devouring any information on New Zealand that I could find. I was reading all the books, I was going on any websites I could find, and I was even listening to Kiwi radio just so we could get a feel of what it was like over here. And I vowed when we got over here, I'd make something for someone that just showed them what real life was really like in New Zealand. And that's what I've done for you. You are going to absolutely love this. I've created a free 5-day video guide all about moving to and living in New Zealand. Now, this guide is not your tourist guide, pretty picture-y hobbits things about New Zealand. This is nitty-gritty, what it's like to live in New Zealand, because do you know what? It's too far away. You can't come and see it for yourself. It's, you're taking a big risk. Maybe you've only been here once or twice. You want to know what it's like to live in New Zealand, and this video series is going to show you that. And best of all, it is absolutely free. Okay, you're going to love it. This is where you have to go. You can go to www.itsadrama.com/ILoveNZ. I'm going to say that again. It's www.itsadrama.com/ILoveNZ. It's a Drama, so itsadrama.com/I love, and then the 2 letters NZ. Go over there, put your email in, and I will send you 5 days of free, real life, what it's like to live in New Zealand. And I just know I'm so excited about it. You are going to love it. Let me know what you think. Okay. Oh, Brian, I've just been outside and there's a Kiwi waiting to see you. Right. Would you think, A, there's a little kiwi fruit on the driveway with little legs, B, there's a kiwi chicken just waddling around waiting to have a quick word, or 3, the farmer from down the road just wants a quick word with you? Which one would you think? So if I didn't say anything else, I just said, right, there's a kiwi waiting to see you outside.
Well, a
what
kiwi
would you
wouldn't
think?
come and see me, would they? But that's a silly question.
It isn't. It isn't. It's confusing.
Well, it is to you.
No, go on. What would you think?
Well,
Tell me the
I
truth.
wouldn't even
What
ask
would
you
you
that
think?
question. I would just say there's someone here to see you.
Yeah, but what would you
I wouldn't
think?
say there's a little bird on the driveway waiting to see you.
Well, I'm sorry,
And
but
it
it's
is night
confusing.
time, so it must be a kiwi.
You can't answer that question because
No,
you
I
know
can't.
the truth.
How could you answer that
All right
question?
then. Okay, so another common misconception that people have about New Zealand is that people who live in New Zealand dwell in bungalows along the coast. So when we went couch surfing, I met someone and they said, oh, so does everyone just live in, so we've seen your little bungalows that you live in. And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, oh, does everyone, is that what, are there any cities or towns, or do people just live in bungalows along the coast? And I actually couldn't believe that. But when I did the research, it's quite a common thing so I think they're getting confused with a
batch.
A batch, yeah.
Right.
So explain what a batch is, Bri, to the people that don't know.
Well, a batch originally was a second home, which would have been on the coast, and it wouldn't have been very big at all. So probably a 1-bedroom little house or 2-bedroom house with a combined kitchen and living room. Not very big at all. Literally a weekend getaway break place, and that's what the batches were. And the thing is, people didn't want to live on the coast years ago because it was cold, it was damp, it was windy, and the house just got eaten by the salt. So they had these little. When it got sunny in the summer, they went to the batches. And that's where the name the batch
It's a weird
comes
batch, isn't it? The name batch.
It is really.
Kiwis have some weird names for things, don't they? Batch, B-A-C-H. What does that mean? I wonder. What is that? Like we would just call it a holiday cottage or I don't know. I'm trying to think of another word that we would use to describe like a little holiday home.
Don't forget
maybe.
that most of the early settlers here, the European settlers, they were all, from all over, weren't they? And South African as well. So maybe it's maybe they're like German words or Dutch or.
Good
whatever.
Point, Brian.
I don't know. Yeah.
You are so intelligent. You are so clever, and I'm just sitting there.
Where does gumboots come from?
Gumboots.
Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah, go on.
No, I don't. I'm not going to know. I don't know that. I don't know that, no. But I think it's just when they were wading through the gum.
What's wrong with wellies?
Yeah, I know. Wellington boots.
Yeah. That's where they came from. The original Wellington was from...
If you're interested in New Zealand words, go and read my post. I'll link to it. It's called New Zealand Slang Words, and it's all the words that the Kiwis use. The slang words that they use. Some of them are just the classic. They're brilliant. Right, okay, so the next one, I can't remember what number it is, but the next one, common misconception. Oh, is it my turn? Is it your turn?
No, I just did the Kiwis eat.
No, and I did live in bungalows.
Yeah, sorry, yes, we haven't. Well, do you want to elaborate more on the bungalow? I mean, the majority of people live in single-storey houses, which is a bungalow, isn't it, in the United Kingdom? Is it a bungalow everywhere?
What do you mean? In the United Kingdom, people live in single-storey houses, or...?
No, but if you live in a single-storey house in England, it's a bungalow.
A bungalow, yeah,
What
I know.
Bungalow. You talk about weird names. I can't get much more. A bungalow. I mean, but David in America, my brother, lives in a single-storey house.
But you wouldn't describe it in America. They don't say bungalow,
No,
do
it'd just
they?
be classed as a house, wouldn't it? But it's not a 2-storey house. So it hasn't got an upstairs, downstairs. It's just a house.
But Kiwi houses, contrary to popular belief that we don't live in little batches along the coast, Kiwi houses range from all different sizes and shapes and all over the country, don't they? So you can live...
Almost every house is different.
Yeah, it is. That's a really weird thing about New Zealand, isn't it? I couldn't quite get my head around that. Is when
a
you
lot
build...
a lot of the new ones are becoming the same because they tend to be the... not kit sets, but set companies that build houses.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They tend to look the same a little bit nowadays, but it used to be everything was individual, wasn't it?
Yeah, I still think it is. I mean, if you drive around New Plymouth, you're not going to see many of this, unless it's like you say, a modern brand new house that's come out of a kit or whatever.
Set,
but
whatever they are.
Yeah. They do look different, but no, they live in flats they're apartments and 2-story houses in Wellington. There's some lovely 2-story houses in Wellington, aren't there?
Yeah, they can be colonial houses or with weatherboards and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the houses are very different than a lot of the other countries I've travelled to. That's for sure.
Okay, that's your next one.
All right, back to the boring things. Food is boring in New Zealand.
We did a podcast on this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So you can check that out if you haven't read that. It's New Zealand food, boring or, delicious or dull. So I'll link to that in the show notes. But
yeah, so again, New Zealand is a multicultural society. We've got so many different cultures here. It's not just European. It is all around the world, from South Africa to Asia to South America, Europe. It's just all over.
Yeah.
American. So it's a melting pot of food.
Not boring.
There's the sort of stereotypical food which you would think would be sausages and lamb
That's
chops.
boring.
Yeah, but it is. I mean, barbecue food can be boring if it's just you're just putting boring stuff on the barbecue. But
you know what, Bright? I think it comes down to the generation as well. Because I was just thinking then, if you went to my grandma's house in Lancashire and had your dinner, you're just going to get a plate of mince and some potatoes, maybe a few onions, and that's it. And like a slice of white bread and butter. So maybe a cottage pie or something like that. Yep. Well, if that's not boring, what is? But it still tastes delicious. But it really, when you look at it, is. And the same when you come to New Zealand. You might go to a house and be offered a plate of lamb chops and some, new potatoes and some peas, and you might think, well, that's a bit boring.
Yeah. I think what the great thing is with a lot of Kiwis do what they call an OE, which is an overseas experience. So a lot of Kiwis go travelling, young Kiwis that grow up here, go out, see the world. They're normally gone for a year or so, and they come back with some great ideas, don't they? And their food is some of the things that you see these guys cooking in the campsites and things, and what they can do to just a normal sort of green-lit mussel. The garlics, the chilies, the coriander that's going into them. And it's just like, it's great, isn't it? And you just think, wow, so there you go. So I don't think food is boring.
Definitely
Or
not.
if it was boring, it's not anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point, yeah. And do you know what? Tara, who we had on the show a couple of weeks ago. So Tara is from Kiwi American. Big shout out to you, Tara. And I was watching one of her YouTube videos the other day, and she actually says that before she moved to New Zealand, she had never tasted curry. She'd never had a curry in her life.
Curry, yeah.
It's like, what? Yeah. I could not believe that when I heard that. And it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Imagine having someone around to your house and say, and being like in your 30s or 40s, whatever, and saying, oh, do you want a curry? And it's like, well, I've never had one. I don't know. What does it taste like? Yeah. That is just unbelievable. She's from America.
I know, but you look at America and you look at what the likes of Gordon Ramsay and Jamie Oliver have done with those food programs about just opening people's eyes to different types of food and stuff like that. And it just, and realizing, the boring stuff that people do tend to eat, Do
you know what I love about New Zealand food is, I'm talking when you go out to a restaurant, is, well, apart from the fact you can get anything, like you said, exactly what you said, is just that it's such a melting pot you're never going to want for any cuisine, really.
Not really, no.
But I like the way that they do everything small. When we went to America, we've been to America a few times, haven't we? And everything's big, isn't it? It's just like...
It seems to be.
Do you remember that time we went to New York and we ordered those...
Yeah, Grand Central Station, when we had those steaks and we had an extra portion of fries, and what lunatics we were. It was embarrassing, wasn't it?
It was embarrassing because it was just like, what is that?
Yeah,
It was like
half a cow on your plate.
Desperate Dan dinner, wasn't it?
It was ridiculous. Yeah.
But the thing I love about New Zealand is it's smaller and it's tasty. I think the food, I've talked about this before, I love the New Zealand food. I think it's tasty. It's just, it tastes real. It just feels like you're eating real food and just, anyway, we're not going to go on too much, but no, the food is not boring in New Zealand. Leading me on to my last point now, which, God, this is just embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to say this. We're talking about eating things, that there are cannibals in New Zealand that eat, native cannibals that eat people. They live in the hills and they eat each other.
Eat each other.
So what do you think about that?
Well, that again, when I remember you said, not remember, you talked about this just before, and I just thought, wow. But I suppose you think you're a Pacific island out down in the South Pacific, the Tasman Sea, and people think that there's natives running around in grass skirts.
Yeah.
So just to like a point on, New Zealand is one of the youngest countries on Earth. So it literally was pushed out the sea so many million years ago. I'm not going to say how many it is because I can't remember. And there are no indigenous people to this land. So the Pacific Islanders, the Maori people, were the first people to set foot on New Zealand, claimed it for themselves. And so if we're talking about, if you wanted to say there was a native race of people here, then yes, it would be the Maori people. But again, there's no indigenous people to this land. It's not, and
the
like
Maori people certainly don't live in grass skirts and huts up on the hills waiting to capture us.
No, but that's what's crazy, isn't it? Because you see a dignitary from another country turn up, and there's a guy with the feathers in his hair, and and they do that dance, and they're wearing the traditional dress from years and years ago. And they do all the things that they do. So people have this conception that then they must be living in mud huts on the beach, And well, it's not.
Yeah. So just to put it straight, when it's not, and also on just to elaborate on that point a little bit, someone actually said to me, "Oh, how do people blend together? Like, what is it like living with Maori people, and how?" Hand on heart, I mean, I can't speak for the rest of the country. All I'm talking about is living in Taranaki, and hand on heart, I have never, ever, ever felt as if like it's us and them. Never, ever, ever. Have you, Brian?
No, there are a bunch of lovely people as such, because they're very family orientated, and I love their sense of humour. I think it's great and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And you've just got to be aware that there's a lot of Pacific Islanders that move to New Zealand. People go, "Oh, you must be Maori," and it's like, no, I'm from Fiji, or you're from Samoa. And so you can't come here and think that all these people that you're seeing are all Maori people as well, because a lot of them aren't. The Pacific Islanders as well. So it's just you just got to be. It's
you'd be glad to know that you can go walking in the hills and not be eaten
by a cannibal.
Put in a pot.
yeah. Maybe years and years ago, apparently, they did, but not anymore.
No.
Well, not that I know of, anyway.
Okay, so have you got anything else that you want to add? We should make a part 2 of these, because there's so many things that like people have said, and you're like, really? So we might make a part 2. We'll see how this one goes, and we might make a part 2. But anything else that you want to say, Brian?
No. I think we've covered our 7 points, and we could keep going.
There's so many more.
Just read a couple of them out then. Why? Because you've got some more on your list there, but we're not going to talk about them now. But I just couldn't believe some of them.
Well, just like, have New Zealanders got cars because you live at the bottom of the world? So how do you have petrol?
Yeah.
It's like, well, naturally we're on a horse and cart, just driving around. The wages are rubbish. The wages are crap in New Zealand, so you're not going to earn any money. Again, I could go on about that. There's just lots of them. It's just an uncivilized country. There's no culture. It's just I'm not going to go on, because there are loads and loads. And like I say, if this podcast does well and you want more, then let us know, and we'll do a part 2, because it's actually a really fun thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah. Where do you fill up your car?
We haven't got a car. We walk everywhere, and if we're not walking, we have our donkey.
Yeah, that's true.
No, actually, our giant Kiwi that we saddle up. The mower, and then just canter down the lane past the natives.
So a moa was an indigenous bird that was here, but it's extinct now.
Yeah.
Which is quite sad, really.
I know, yeah.
It's a bit the size of an ostrich, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we hope you have enjoyed these common misconceptions about New Zealand. And as always, please like, comment and subscribe. And I'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, take care. Thanks.
Thank you so much for joining us this week on the podcast. We have loved having you here.
If you guys could subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a 5-star review.
Oh yeah, that would be nice.
That would be absolutely amazing. And make sure to share the podcast with your friends.
And if you'd like to hop over to the blog, find one of the little boxes that ask you to drop your email. I will send you a newsletter every week letting you know when we've released our new podcast. That will go straight into your inbox. So it's www.itsadrama.com.
All right, guys, enjoy the rest of your day, and we will see you next week for another podcast.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.